Hey everybody, today I'm going to review Hitachi's 3-piece 12-volt combo kit that includes a compact drill driver, a compact impact driver, as well as a work light. Now what we're going to do in this video is see how these actually perform. We're going to do some runtime testing, and I'm going to give you some closer up looks at each of these so you can see the different features that they have built in. Inside the box is going to be the impact driver, a drill, a flashlight, 2 of their 12-volt batteries, a battery charger that can bring those back to a full charge in roughly 25 minutes, a little introductory starter set of bits as well as a bit extension, and a protective tool bag. Here's a closer look at the drill, and the first thing I want to point out is the fact that all the dark green you see is going to be a very hard plastic, and then the black is going to be a softer rubbery overmold. Now I did install the included belt clip set up for right-handed use, but if you are left-handed, they have a place on the other side. You could screw it right in there and it would be set up for left-handed use. The battery is going to plug right in the bottom, and because of its design, it was able to keep everything nice and compact, but it's also going to give it the ability to stand upright without falling over. The chuck on this is going to be a 3/8 inch chuck, and it does have a variable speed trigger with 2 different speed or power modes. Speed mode 1 is going to be 0 to 350 RPMs. Speed mode 2 is going to be 0 to 1300 RPMs. So let's say you're drilling into metal, you want that low speed and higher torque mode. But if you are just doing pilot holes into wood, speed mode 2 is going to get that done a lot faster for you. Now the other thing I want to point out as far as the chuck goes, they do have a clutch mechanism built in. So let's say you're driving a screw and you don't want to strip it out or drive it too far into a piece of wood, you can dial that in exactly where you want it. So when you screw something in, it's not going to bottom out on you. Now when you're drilling a hole, you're not going to be using the clutch. You'll spin that around to where it looks like a little drill bit. That's going to give you maximum power to the chuck and the drill bit the entire time. Now because this does have a plastic chuck on the outside with metal inside, that may be a big deal to some people, but I've drilled many holes with this and it has not been a problem at all because it is a ratcheting chuck. So I don't have to hold 2 things to tighten everything up. I can just grab the chuck, twist it, and it's automatically going to ratchet tight. Now lastly, let's talk about the LED that they have built in. Right here at the base, you can see a little LED. When we barely pull in on the trigger, it's going to light up. So it doesn't have any sort of a delay. You do have to physically pull in on the trigger to light that up, but you can do so without the chuck turning. Now, when you want to drill, that's going to be lit up the entire time, but because it is an LED, it's going to use almost no power. Now because this is a compact drill, I'll primarily be using it to drill pilot holes with a countersink bit attached when I'm attaching 2 pieces of wood together. Now it can be used for other things, which I'll show you next, but for doing things like this small delicate work is where it really excels. And now that we have those pilot holes drilled along with the countersinks, in order to actually install the screws, I've switched this out with a standard bit holder as well as a number 2 Phillips. And what we'll do, instead of having this on drill mode on the chuck, we're going to dial that back so the clutch is actually going to be engaged and it won't strip those screws out. So we'll start out at a low speed and work up. So let's say we put it on speed mode 1. With almost no resistance, the clutch is going to kick in and prevent this from turning. So just taking a look at these fine thread drywall screws, I'll line those up, and if it's not enough, we can move that chuck up as far as the clutch goes in order to drive it in the rest of the way. So just on speed mode 1, as far as the clutch goes, you can see it's automatically going to prevent itself from going in any further. And now to sink it, what we'll do is just maybe bump that up to a 6 and see how far it goes in at this point. So once it gets all the way in, you can see it automatically stops turning. It's not going to pull in any further. And now that we have that set correctly, for our second hole, we already know it's a 6. We'll line it right up and sink the screw all the way. Now, although this is a very compact, low-powered drill, if you do need to drill some larger holes like this 1-inch spade bit, it can do that as long as you pop it on low speed, which is going to be a higher torque setting, and then just take your time and let the bit do the work. So we don't want to overload the drill, but we can line that right up with the piece of wood, slowly go into it, and it's going to chew its way right through. Now for a runtime test on the drill, let's see how many 1/4 inch holes we can put through a 2x4 on just 1 battery charge. Okay, it made it fully through 171 holes, and on hole number 172, the battery finally died. Here's the impact driver. It's set up exactly the same way as the drill, but I do want to point out the fact that although this does have a variable speed trigger, it does not have different speed or power modes, so everything is going to have to be controlled by you and how hard you press in on this. Now, as far as the operation goes, it's going to be exactly the same as the drill, with the exception of the chuck, because this is going to be a quick release 1/4-inch hex chuck, and you cannot use standard drill bits with it. So what I want to point out with this is the fact that this is going to have a lot more power as far as driving screws into wood, and I really prefer these. Let's say you're going to be replacing some deck boards. This is a lot better option to use than a drill because it very rarely will strip a screw head out. Now, I also want to point out the fact this is exactly the same way with that LED light. As soon as you release it, it's going to immediately cut off, and it will stay on the entire time the chuck's spinning. Now, as far as the size goes, side by side with the drill, they are very similar in size. The drill is going to be a little bit longer, but as far as the height and footprint of them, they're going to be almost the same. The impact driver is really designed for smaller things like this small drywall screw, which you can see it can put right into the wood with no issues. Now, if you flip this out with a different bit, I'm going to be actually using a Torx bit. We'll pop that in there. And if you have larger screws like this 3-inch coated deck screw, let's say you're replacing a board on your deck or maybe the stairs messed up, it'll put that right into the pine exactly the same way. Now for a runtime test, I'm going to be driving 1 5/8-inch coarse thread drywall screws into a 2x6. Okay, it made it fully through 367 1 5/8-inch coarse thread drywall screws into a 2x6 on just one battery charge. Lastly, let's talk about the included work light. Now, the first thing I'll tell you right off the bat is the fact that I didn't realize this toolkit came with a work light. I thought it was just a drill and impact driver. But after opening everything up and taking a look at this, I do think it would be useful in many situations, with one big negative. The negative being it is not an LED work light, and it's not going to have extreme run times. But because it is a very low wattage bulb, and it is using the lithium battery packs, it should be able to still be used and not burn out immediately. So what we're going to do in this video is actually put that to the test and see how long it can go in just one battery charge. Now, other than that, the head on this is going to pivot 180 degrees in either direction. You can remove the face of this to change that light bulb if it ever burns out. And then the on-off switch does have a rubber cover on it, and that's going to keep out water, dirt, and debris. Now, lastly, they do have this little included lanyard, so you can hang that around your neck or carry it along with your tools, and you're not going to have to really free up one of your hands only to use this work light. So that may be a nice feature, but if you don't like it, it's easily removed. Now, let's say I'm working underneath this vanity in a bathroom looking for leaks or maybe replacing some plumbing fittings. Instead of dealing with this low light situation or hooking up a floodlight to try to flood this area with light, I can use the included work light, turn it on, and because the head will pivot left to right, I can just set that down, aim it at what I'm working on, then I can take my pliers to replace that connection. Now for a runtime test on the light, I have a fully charged battery pack. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on now, and we'll leave it running until the light finally goes out. So looking at the stopwatch, right now it's on all zeros. I'm going to press start, and we'll come back when the light finally goes out. Okay, I just got done watching a movie. The light was lit up the whole time, shining a spot right on the wall. And when I looked over at it, I noticed something new. And that is a little red LED on the base of the unit. You can see right here. I think that's actually a warning light to tell me that the light is really getting down to the home stretch before the battery dies. But I do want to point out the timer. It's been going continuously since I turned it on. And we are now at 4 hours and 53 minutes of continuous runtime. Okay, the light literally just went out. I stopped the clock and it lasted a full 5 hours and 6 minutes on just one battery charge. So now you've seen Hitachi's 3-piece 12-volt combo kit for yourself. And I'll tell you right off the bat, the power and the run times on these really amaze me. The fact that that little work light, although it's not an LED, could still last for over 5 hours on just one battery charge really does prove that it's a usable item. And let's say you're a homeowner and you just need a drill or maybe an impact driver and you get this kit. You can still use this at night when you have to go out and walk your dog. Now let's say you're a plumber or just a handyman. Having something like this in the tool bag would allow you to get into some dark places like underneath the sink and the light exactly where you want it. Because that bulb is putting out very little heat because it's a very low watt bulb, it's not going to make it uncomfortable to work under there. Now as far as the run times on the other tools go, the impact driver did over 350 screws into a 2x6. And just keep in mind, let's say you were hanging some drywall in a room you're finishing, you would be going through drywall also. So you wouldn't be going as far into the wood and you should get even longer run times than I got. Now finally, the drill was able to do over 150 holes on just one charge, and that was 1/4-inch holes. But what I'm primarily going to use this for is very small holes, which is normally an 1/8 inch or less, and I'm going to get some tremendous run times out of it. Now as far as longevity goes, they do have a lifetime warranty on the tools and a 2-year warranty on the battery. So as long as you do cycle the batteries and you keep them fully charged, they're going to last a lot longer than that. And the way you're going to kill the batteries is really one of 3 ways. You're going to get them overheated, you're going to let them freeze, or you're going to let them fully discharge. And what I mean by that is the fact that, let's say you run that drill all the way down, and then you let it set on your shelf for a month or 2, all batteries self-discharge. So once you get it to a certain point, it has to be recharged, and if you let it continue to drop below that, it's going to fry those cells and ruin the batteries. So as long as you maintain the batteries and you don't let them freeze and you don't let them cook, they should last you for many years. If you like this video, please click like. If you like my channel, please click subscribe. And thanks for watching.